My name is Tiffany Stephenson, and my final project is UF Rec Sports 2017 Social Media Successes, and this report is intended to go to our director. Today I'll cover the mission for Rec Sports and our social media goals as they currently exist, our fan analysis, visibility, engagement, post-performance analyses, as well as give you some key takeaways and recommendations for future content. So Rec Sports' mission is to offer experience that enrich the lives of the University of Florida community through excellence in facilities, fitness, sport, adventure, and play. We're committed to advancing student success, developing leaders, and encouraging lifelong wellness. Some of our goals include consistency of message and tone across platforms, grow Facebook's following by 30% by the end of 2017, and increase engagement by 20% across UF Rec Sports social media platforms by the end of 2017. So the first chart that we're looking at is UF Rec Sports monthly fan growth over the course of fall semester 2017. There's an increase of 71 fans from August to September, and this is most likely due to new students on campus and them liking Rec Sports business page to receive programmatic updates. There's another increase of 16 fans from September to October. However, after October, we see small declines in fans, losing 2 fans in both November and December. UF Rec Sports Facebook audience skews female. As we see in this chart, 55% of them identify as female. Of the 14,441 total followers, 7,942 users identify as female, 6,354 users identify as male, or the 44%, and 145 users chose not to identify with either gender, which is the 1% unassigned. For UF Rec Sports Facebook female audience, it's mostly comprised of 2 age groups, 18 to 24 and 25 to 34, which represent most of UF's undergraduate and graduate student populations. Similarly, Facebook's male users by age are also 18 to 24 and 25 to 34, which represent, again, most of the undergraduate and graduate student populations. The next popular audience groups are the 35 to 44, and what's interesting about those groups is that it looks like parents of current students are following our page in order to disseminate information about programmatic happenings and to get them involved on campus. Visibility analysis. So in the month of August, we see that we had 271,299 impressions. These impressions tell us how frequently users are exposed to Rec Sports content. This is the number of times Rec Sports content was displayed in a user's newsfeed, ticker, or on our page. At first glance, it may be alarming to see the 60% drop in Facebook post total impressions from August to September. However, it should be noted that in September, Facebook followed Google's introduction of the Mobile First Index, which essentially means that websites are penalized if they're not mobile optimized. In Facebook's version of the update, this meant that stories would place higher on one's newsfeed if links led to a fast loading web page. Rec Sports' website is not optimized for mobile entirely, so it's possible that fewer stories were prioritized since our web page takes longer to load. This may account for the drop in engagement as a result of fewer Rec Sports posts making it higher up in one's newsfeed, which we'll talk about shortly. Subsequent months fluctuated in impressions and were most likely a result of students taking finals in October and semesters end in December. For posts by content type, more than 60% of our total Facebook posts included photos, and in 5 months, less than 1% of Rec Sports posts were status-only updates. And those updates were primarily used to communicate facility and campus closures during hurricane season, such as what's on the screen. So for Twitter, the impressions on a Twitter account for the total number of times a tweet from Rec Sports account or mentioning Rec Sports could appear in users' Twitter feeds during the reported period, so fall 2017. This So the 50,130 Twitter impressions in August include our tweets that mention our brand handle, and retweets of our content. And month over month, we see that there is an increase in total Twitter impressions, and this metric gauges our success in continuing to expand our overall brand impact. The month of December had the most impressions with 102,701. There were two posts that impacted the set that way, and those were Rec Sports blog post on the men's club lacrosse's latest community service project honoring a late club president, and event coverage from an intramural sports flag football event called Finals in the Swamp. So engagement, according to Simply Measured, engagement on Facebook accounts for the public ways your social audience can interact with your brand or make them show up in their news feeds and those of their Facebook friends. So this measures people's interactions with Rec Sports content and promotion of our content to their circles of influence. Again, we see that significant drop, 56% in Facebook post engagement from August to September, which may be alarming, but let's remember that mobile first index from earlier. So unlike our fluctuating impressions, there's actually an increase of engagement in subsequent months, particularly up in 36% in November and 19% in December. And these increases suggest that we continue to produce content that users found relevant and worth interacting with. In the second chart here, Facebook post engagement by type, we look specifically at comments, likes, and shares. The Facebook post engagement by type shows us that likes, comments, and shares were highest in August and December. The reason for those increases in engagement were a result of two videos, a time lapse of our weight room reflooring and a promotional for Run Your Way to 5K, which is a new small group training format offering. So those drove everything up. Users' likes, comments, and shares extended the lifetime of these posts and increased the likelihood of them being seen by those that may not currently follow Rec Sports. Engagement on Twitter, again, so Simply Measured defines engagement as every way followers can interact with your brand to make it show up in their timelines. So this incorporates one-on-one conversations as well as promotion to their circles of influence. While engagement on Twitter is comprised of total number of mentions, replies, retweets, and likes, I only investigated retweets, replies, and likes, shown here. So August engagement was about 5% higher than September due to our campaign for Rextravaganza, our annual open house showcasing all that Rec Sports has to offer. And then from October through November, we saw at least 30% increases in engagement month to month. For us to see why September had 165% more replies than August and why November had the most likes overall, we'll explore that in the next slide. So during the month of September, we hosted a series of Trivia Today, asking our followers questions regarding Rec Sports or general wellness topics. Respondents were then entered into a raffle for swag. While we saw the fewest amount of likes in September, number of 94, this was the month that we garnered the most replies as a result of this series. So we should consistently weave the Trivia Today series into our content strategy since we see that our audience enjoys engaging with us. In November, we had the most likes, 264, during fall 2017, which is 1.5 times the amount of likes garnered in October, which was 170. This was largely due to intramural sport championship winner announcements. Anecdotally, we know that these are some of the most coveted and celebrated t-shirts for students to receive on campus. So not only were the intramural winners liking the posts because they were proud to see their teams on the platforms, but they're also more likely to tell and receive recognition from their friends. So Rec Sports Facebook page during the month of November shared 18 event activity posts, triple the amount of reposts shared. However, the event activity posts were not as widely distributed in the newsfeed, hence the low number of impressions. Many of the event activity posts were photos from past events, so it's possible that they weren't engaged with due to our audience finding them irrelevant to share after the fact. Conversely, reposts on average receive the most impressions but the least amount of engagement, signaling that Rec Sports' timeliness determined the post's prominence in the newsfeed. Promotions, on the other hand, garnered the highest amount of engagements, increasing their distribution in users' news feeds and ultimately raising the average number of impressions. So, repurposing timely and relevant articles or videos by other sources is a good social media tactic in general. And as proponents of wellness, Rec Sports encourages well-being through participation. So it made sense to share the article, including Gainesville's Devil Millhopper, which is a local outdoor destination for students and residents, as well as the shared video, which highlights new boat offerings at Lake Wahlberg, another local student destination. The most successful of our promotion posts entertained our audiences with cooking tutorials and encouraged student engagement in new outdoor adventures through Rec Sports Core, or Center for Outdoor Recreation and Education. What's interesting to note is that there is no one best content type with which our audience chooses to engage with. In our best performing posts, there's a good mix of links to articles and videos, as well as original video, photos, and links. For Twitter, during the month of December 2017, Rec Sports shared 7 call to action tweets and nearly 10 times fewer the amount of event activity tweets. And on average, those call to action posts garnered 230 engagements per tweet. Support tweets received the second highest average engagements, but had the most impressions on average. Rec Sports call to action posts included job opening announcements for graduate assistantships and other positions such as lakefront lifeguards. Rec Sports employs 700 or more student employees every year, and we have a reputation as one of the most highly desirable positions on campus. So it's not surprising that these types of posts garner the most engagement and distribute the farthest across users' timelines. Support posts like the aforementioned Rec Sports blog post on the men's club of lacrosse and event coverage on intramural sports flag football finals in the Swamp earn the most impressions because they celebrate student leadership and successes on and off the field. So what are key takeaways? Our messaging and branding has one unified voice, and the increases in impressions and engagement on both Facebook and Twitter suggest that our audience finds our content relevant. Impressions and engagement were also consistent with campus trends, with decreases in both October due to finals and December due to winter break. Unfortunately, we were unable to grow Rec Sports following by the end of 2017, but the asterisk is to note this result was an effect of Rec Sports' low web page loading time and Facebook's mobile first index. So I would point out that after the algorithm change, so from September to December, we actually did see an increase in engagement by 50% on Facebook. And then our third goal was to increase engagement by 20%. So we met and exceeded our goal of increased engagement on Twitter by 173%. And then this data also reinforces a lot of the things that we already knew, such as students utilizing our social media platforms to be entertained and engaged, that they want to interact with us for rewards like swag items, they'd like to see themselves and or their friends in our feeds, and that they want to be employed by Rec Sports, so they're more willing to share that information. My recommendations going forward would be to optimize recsports.ufl.edu for mobile to increase total Facebook impressions, and this would ultimately also lead to an increase in Rec Sports Facebook followership. Facebook Newsroom actually gives us some tips on how to best improve mobile site performance so that we don't continue to see significant changes to our distribution in newsfeed. I would combat negative feedback to our Facebook page by creating individual event pages for events and activities, since these types of posts saw 2.5 times fewer engagements than support posts. And this would also allow for Rec Sports to strategically post more videos, since a video's shelf life extends as a result of users' engagement. Other than that, I would say to keep up the good work and variety of content on Twitter. Our current strategy and balance of posts are obviously relevant to and well received by our audience. Here are my sources. Thank you.